Good evening, you two. Welcome to Politics with Heart. Brian Soto here, weighing in on Donald Trump's first few days in office now. A lot of exciting things have been happening. Of course, a lot of opposition to the inauguration of Donald Trump, but from my nonpartisan perspective, I actually see a lot of things to be excited about and a lot of good things to comment on. Let's start with the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, being pushed through by both neoliberals and neoconservatives for quite some time now. I guess former President Obama tried to push this legislation through something like 45 times. Hillary Clinton called it the gold standard of trade. Yeah, maybe for corporate elites and CEOs and the politicians who are taking back end kickbacks and monies to their foundation. Gold standard for them, not really so good for the rest of us. Let me see here. A bunch of countries: Japan, the U.S., Malaysia, Brunei, Mexico. A bunch of nations we're going to sign on to this free trade deal, which, if we learned anything from NAFTA, is little more than opportunities for U.S. corporations to offshore and pay slave wages, essentially, or a fraction of what they would pay for American labor to produce degraded products that they sell over here to Americans. It's interesting to me that people don't really consider the consequences of that. You take away a bunch of middle class jobs, manufacturing jobs, the management jobs that are associated with manufacturing. You offshore factories, and somehow we're supposed to bring over goods for Americans to buy when there's less of us that can afford them. I don't really understand. Not really a good deal for the people doing the jobs offshore either. In places like Malaysia, Brunei, Mexico, they're being paid substandard wages. Who really knows what their working conditions are like? They're not subject to the standards of the U.S. It's a win-win for politicians and CEOs. It's terrible. And then with the TPP, you can also throw in some opaque measures like copyright law. What was that? And then what was the most alarming was the legal ramifications of it. Apparently, the TPP would enable corporations to sue nations, including the U.S. Not really a good deal. I'm in complete agreement with Donald Trump on this. That was terrible. It should have been struck down. I don't know how this made it that far. We need to pay more attention to the issues. This is a big one. And then Donald Trump is renegotiating NAFTA, another great thing. Just to dovetail off of what I was saying about the TPP, NAFTA signed into law back in 1994 under the Clinton administration, written by, and a big proponent of it, written by and put forward by George H.W. Bush. Just as a tangent, I mean, how are these people even different? Senior Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, or George Walker Bush, and then Barack Obama. I mean, it's like they were all the same administration. Neoliberal, neoconservative. What's the difference? Let's screw the American public. Let's send people off to war. Let's kill people abroad. Bomb 7 different countries, and as long as CEOs and politicians are getting paid, everyone's happy, or at least they are. Not the rest of us. And then, so we have the TPP, we have NAFTA renegotiation, and then we have gun control laws that, thank God, I actually am a proponent of Second Amendment rights. I'm a proponent of rights in general. I don't think that the government should be stripping us of more rights. If anything, they need to be giving us more freedoms. And then it's kind of interesting to me too. Gun control, what does that really mean? Who's controlled by gun control? It's constituents. It's the population. I've always said I would be in favor of gun control if politicians wouldn't surround themselves with men with guns, or women with guns, people with guns. Let's make it an across-the-board sweeping reform. You can't have guns either. Again, I'm not a proponent of this. I don't believe in outsourcing my personal security or the security of my family to anybody else. I believe that if people want to have guns, they should be able to. I used to be a Marine. Before I was a Marine, I wasn't, a really gun-toting. I never thought that I would own a gun. Actually, it's interesting to me. My perspective did change, but me being a proponent of freedom in general, I think that gun control is a bad idea. It concentrates power at the top. From what we're seeing with things like the TPP and NAFTA, it's probably not such a good idea to vote against or to be a proponent of taking away somebody's right to own a gun. And then I can't help but be perplexed by the lack of attention given to the reasons why people go and shoot up schools and create, kill people and commit heinous crimes with guns. I don't see how gun control would solve any of that. I think that we can talk about the base issues. Like, maybe we shouldn't be sending a bunch of people to war overseas and they come back traumatized and go and shoot up airports and elementary schools. And that would be a step in the right direction. Or maybe we shouldn't create economic chaos domestically, impoverishing people, not basically, at least they perceive that there's no way out of that, so they need to commit violent crimes against people, perhaps commit mass shootings, perhaps just rob and kill. Like, who knows? Gun control doesn't address any of these fundamental issues, so I'm getting pretty tired of hearing about these band-aid solutions by both liberal and conservative politicians. I mean, they both put them forward. At the end of the day, when these things pass, there's participation from both sides of the aisle. So, first few days in office for Trump, done a good job. No TPP, NAFTA renegotiation, and it looks like gun control is not going to be such an issue anymore. I applaud him. And if you disagree with me, I encourage your dissent. Dissent is the key to enlightenment, and that's one of the big points of this program. So let's talk about this. That about does it for this episode. Remember, look out for each other.